So, Gears of War 4.
Yes.
Gears 4.
Gears 4.
For a lot of people, like, the Gears series is a single-player experience. But for those that play the multiplayer, specifically like the competitive multiplayer, those guys are going to be playing it a year after release.
That's the hope.
Regularly, that is the hope. And that's what we're going to talk about in this video, because you haven't played the single player, but you've played the versus multiplayer.
Yes, and very specifically what they're going to have available for the beta, which, by the way, the developers promise is an actual proper beta, not these sort of glorified demos that we're used to.
I found it quite interesting to see that they pointed that out. Yeah, that there were going to be like technical issues, and they're going to fix them because that's what betas are sometimes supposed to do.
Yeah, I know.
So the beta starts next week on the 18th of April if you played the Ultimate Edition.
Yep.
But it starts on the 25th for everyone else with Xbox Live.
Yep.
All right, what's in it?
There's a few maps and the standard game mode, which people who play competitive multiplayer of Gears will be familiar with, that sort of 5v5 thing.
Sure. And
They've got a couple of cool new modes as well. I think the highlight of the new modes is Dodgeball.
Okay.
Now,
is that what it sounds like?
Yeah. So Dodgeball is like a sport in the US, right? It's like a proper serious thing.
Yes, it is.
But it's not so big here. So, but the idea is that you die, you're out, but you can be brought back in to the game if one of your teammates kills another player.
Okay, but just to be absolutely clear here, there isn't a physical dodgeball in this game.
No.
It's more the overall kind of concept.
No, you don't dodge balls, you dodge bullets.
Nice. Wow. Did someone say that to you? I can imagine that being a phrase.
No, but I'm glad you said nice, which is another Gears phrase.
And what was the other mode? So you got dodgeball?
That's just sort of like standard sort of team deathmatch thing. So the thing to say about the multiplayer is that it feels very familiar. The developers are trying to go back to Gears of War 3 as opposed to the sort of spin-off that came out afterwards, Gears of War Judgment, which is a good thing because I don't think Gears of War Judgment is looked upon particularly fondly, even though it was perfectly serviceable game. It just
that was
really
it. It was perfectly serviceable.
It didn't go down massively well with the community. So, and it feels really familiar.
Yep.
Even though they've added a few sort of mobility options.
Yeah, I saw there's a couple of new things surrounding how the cover system works. So you can both pull enemy players out of cover when you're on the opposite side of the cover, you can pull them over.
So one of the things that has been sort of really funny about Gears of War down the years is that, say you were behind cover, and then your enemy was behind the same cover but on the other side.
Yep.
You just sort of like pop up and shoot and go back in cover, and you're basically
and
a meter away from each
other.
Yep. And it's kind of like that really funny sort of ridiculous thing.
Made only better by how absolutely massive the characters are as well.
Oh yeah, well definitely. It's just kind of dumb.
So you can pull them over.
So it's called yank and shank.
And knife them.
Yeah, so you basically pull them over to your side of the cover, and they're sort of in a sort of vulnerable state where you've got if you time it properly, you've got a moment to do a knife kill. It's important to note though that they can counter that.
Right.
So it's not like it. So there's a kind of like timing game of skill going involved in that, and that's pretty cool. Although it's very if you played Gears of War back in the day, you don't have that muscle memory. It's something that you kind of just have to force yourself to learn. You have the option of doing.
It sounds like a healthy thing for the game to be able to actually be able to respond to that situation.
Yeah, I've always thought Gears of War competitive multiplayer is a kind of curious sort of thing because the game is very sort of up close and personal and really brutal. So you've always had that sort of Nasher shotgun sort of fueled competitive multiplayer. Everyone's running around with shotguns and stuff, and sort of trying to chainsaw each other and do executions and all the rest of it. And yet there are also ranged weapons. Like the Lancer is a sort of cool mid-range weapon. And you've got a sniper, which is really useful as well. So I think these sort of extra mobility options will encourage players to move around a bit more, I think, and feel like they can almost seamlessly kill people.
I also saw that you can. There's a quicker way of jumping over cover now, and whilst you're doing it, you kick your opponent. Which is
the
trying to get around
run.
The same problem, right?
Yeah, so the classic Gears of War roadie run thing. You can sort of seamlessly transition into a vault kick without stopping, and it's faster to the mantle. It's a faster alternative to the mantle kick where you'd get into cover and then sort of transition over. So you can get around the map a little quicker. These are sort of small tweaks.
Yeah, but for the people that play this game,
yeah, for the ultra hardcore,
a year from now, these are
going to be. Yeah, it'll be
moves.
interesting to see. I think the key point is to see whether these new moves are basically going to change up the tactics that players use from Gears of War. Because when I played it, I think it was pretty easy to sort of fall into the very similar sort of tactics that you use in terms of like making sure you're sticking with your team and trying to flank where possible, and keeping on top of the power weapons that would spawn in the map. That's what the old school sort of Gears of War tactics you just sort of do automatically, and you don't immediately think, oh, I can actually do these new moves, and maybe they're actually useful in certain situations. So it'll take a while for the community to work out when to use them, and I'll be interested to see if they actually do change things significantly.
Sure. And then one final point: Gears of War 4 is, as many games with a competitive multiplayer element, is hoping to go after the esports crowd.
Yeah.
Something they kind of played around a little bit with the Ultimate Edition by the sounds of it.
Yeah.
But here, I'm just going to two new things that really kind of stand out to me is I imagine you didn't really see much of this with it being a preview event, but there's a new ranking system that like very clearly shows what tier you're in and what tier players you're going to be against.
Yeah.
And also a spectator mode.
I actually did see the spectator mode.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, they demoed it during a presentation, and it looks a lot better.
Yep.
Like the idea that you can very quickly jump to different players' perspectives, even though it sounds like a very easy thing that should have been in a game for a while. Previously in Gears of War, if you were spectating, you'd have to sort of cycle through the perspectives to get to the one you wanted, and it was a really jarring experience as the camera just sort of shifted around. Now there's a lot more options for you in terms of spectating, and it's a lot better. I mean, it looks a lot better. I haven't actually used it myself.
Sure. Well, they're not hoping for you with this, are they? They're hoping for like Twitch broadcasters to pick this up.
The impression I got is that they're making a serious play for Gears of War esports. The point actually that Rod Ferguson, who is the development chief at the coalition, made is that it's not them sort of jumping on the esports bandwagon, because Gears of War actually is an old school esport in terms of like MLG thing.
Yeah, but they'd like it to be
but obviously they want it to be a bigger deal in the context of what modern esports means, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they're hoping for lots of viewership on Twitch, prize money being impressive,
full-time
and
teams.
all the usual sort of thing that you'd associate with.
Oh, cool. Well, there we are. I guess, yeah, it sounds familiar, but a few new interesting ideas and a push towards esports probably make it stand out the most.
Yes, if I could describe it all in a word, I would use nice.
Pick up the gun!
Ether, I swear,
Pick up the gun!
What do you think I'm trying to do here?
Pick up the gun! What's wrong with you?
I
Why don't you want to pick up the gun?
I don't know. Please stop.
Why won't
Please
you pick
stop.
up the gun? Pick it up!
What? Ether, I don't know what to do. Why is it not? Why won't it let me? May I remind you, Ether, of the time slightly earlier in this video when you were all... Silent Hill 2 was well regarded as one of the finest video games ever to grace
It is.
this,
It's not its
this
fault
planet
you
of
can't
ours.
play it.